Hello, welcome back to Ride Rescue. Today I am working on the hood for the Jeepster. A couple of areas that I needed to work on. This trailing edge was spot welded on the trail and only just in a few spots. Well, it's come loose and it's vibrating. So I tack welded that down, pretty simple. This lead edge, I've got some stress cracks and I've got some unsightly gaps. And these actually show when the hood is closed and you look next to the headlight, you can see these gaps. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to fill those gaps in and weld in some little pieces of metal. I'll get the camera up here real close and show you. And my first thought was, why did they do this? But after I see how this is stamped and how it's all pulled together and how it's spot welded and 1950 technology, that's what worked. So this is the area that I'm talking about. They pie-shaped cut this edge because when it was stamped and then folded up and over. So this would have wrinkled or cracked when they were making these back in the day. So what I'm doing is I'm just cutting some pieces of light gauge steel. This is probably a 22 gauge, so it's easy to work with. I can use my hand snips. I don't have to get out any crazy tools for this. Alright, get the idea. I'll cut another little wedge for this one, and then I've got the edges all cleaned up and I'll just weld this into place. When it comes to this piece, it's got 4 spot welds on it, and it's pretty thick metal. I think I'll try drilling these and see if I can break it loose. If not, then I'm going to take the grinder to it. Alright, so I've just got a little grinding. I'm hoping I can smooth out some of these really deep welds. If I can get in behind here and kind of manipulate it, move it around a little bit. I want to smooth this out as much as possible. And then I'll go over it with a skim coat of filler. This actually sets on a rubber seal on the core support, the radiator support, grill. So I want to clean this up as much as possible so that I can get a good seal. And I want it to look good when the engine compartment is open. So now I want to reinforce these edges. These edges are just bent over. There's no reinforcing on the back side. It's spot welded on each end for the reinforcing on both lead and trail, nothing on the sides. And I'm putting my gas struts on here, so I want to be able to weld that strut on, and I need to strengthen this up. So I'm going to weld a bar on the underneath side of this. So I need to clean the paint off and put on some weld-through primer, and then I'm going to spot weld that ram. So what I've done is I've drilled through, because I've already had a couple of holes that I drilled in order to mount this bracket. So I decided I'll just go ahead and drill more holes, and I can weld through into this rod, and that'll stiffen it all up. So I need to weld this bracket on first, and then I can weld it to here. So after welding on the nose area, I welded some on the back. I did a weld all the way down the sides. My oil can came back. So I did a little heat shrink real quick just to test it. I wanted to make sure I don't distort this. I don't want to lose this perfectly straight edge. It has a nice gradual dip that'll flow right up the windshield. So I don't want to lose that little dip. And I certainly don't want to make it worse. So I have a rag ready to hurry and cool this down. And I'll show you how to heat shrink an area like this. And hopefully I don't show you how to distort it, make it worse. I've got my damp rag to cool it down. I might have to do a few spots, but I'm going to start with just one and go from there. Get cherry red, tap and quench. I haven't lost this line, but I'm doing it a little bit worse again. I'm starting to distort my line a little bit now, so I've got to be really careful. I don't want to shrink any more in this area. So I might need to do a little bit here. I definitely need to do more here. I've had to chase these before, where you just keep chasing it. So I'm probably going to end up moving further down this way and further up this way. So what I've created myself here, now I have a high spot all along here from all my heat shrink areas, and this is now dropped. So if I prop up the back side of this with the bar and then work this area down, now that it has shrunk up, I should be able to just flatten this right back out. Where I have to be careful is using a dolly. So I use a dolly on the back side of this, and I hit that dolly, I'm going to stretch it back out again. So if I can position this dolly on the outer edges of my high spot, I can work it down, and if there's any really good high spots, use this tip to slowly work them down so that I'm not using this area to stretch the metal out. It doesn't take much. It's easy to stretch. So this area now is dropped down 1/2 inch. So I need to have a support on the back side to be able to hold that where it belongs, and then I can work this area down, because now I have a high spot all along here, and I'll work that down at the same time holding this up And this hasn't settled, so this is firm. This will be firm. You just use a ratchet strap here to hold this firm, and then I can work this area without the possibility of this getting messed up. It should stay put now. Okay, it feels pretty good. Now the test will be to take the pressure off of this center piece and see if it stays put. Pretty close. Got just a little bit of a low spot right here. So I will put the support back on it and I'll work this area, yeah, because this is lifted back up again. So once this is up, I can push this down. I should be right back to where I want it, and no real oil canning. I've marked my high spots here that I need to work down. I'm going to go back to the board. Well, now that's a problem. Now after working this area, even with having a board behind it, I've created an oil can down here now. Like I was saying when I first started this, I often end up chasing one. Just keep chasing it until it stops. And that's got to be fixed. Oh, I need right there. Didn't get it hot enough. I just made it worse. Big red area. Work my way back and forth right here at the bottom of this tip so that I can restore that tip back to where it belongs. So you can see it in reverse. This is what I'm doing with the wood block. I can see my burnt spots on the underneath side. I've got some low spots now with all these dimples. Now I can go back and forth and tap down the dimples. I want to be able to finish both sides of this hood. At this point, I've got some low spots. I can just skim over all of those, but then it creates a high spot on the opposite side. I want to be able to finish this so that both sides are perfect. So, do you need to be this perfect? I guess it depends on your project and what your comfort zone is. Alright, that's the real test. Loosen up this strap and see if that all stays where I have it. Absolutely perfect. Now with this being wet, I can see the imperfections. This area I've been working, top and bottom, it looks really good. This is just a little out of reach for me underneath. I've got low spots on each one of these dimples. Those will be really easy to work out when I find a way to reach it. Awesome. All right, let's put it down and see if this oil cans or if it's finished. Got a little bit of oil canning right here, but I've got enough, yeah. Yeah, it's just enough that when I'm sanding a skim coat of filler on this, it's going to go up and down as I sand. And what happens is every time it goes down and you sand across and it pops back up, you're always going to have a high spot there because you can't get it to sand smooth when it keeps popping up and down every time you sand across it. The rest is perfect. So I know how this works. I'll end up chasing this. That's the name of the heat and shrink. On a big area like this where it's so flat, it just wants to keep moving until you finally get it to the spot where it's solid. And down here far enough that it's narrow and it's solid, I'm going to have to probably go 2 or 3 more to get this solid. But you get the idea. I don't need to keep showing you. I'll finish this up and put a skim coat over it. So that's it for this episode. Appreciate you tuning in. I hope you find this useful. Heat shrinking is something that's taken me a lot of years to be able to really figure it out and not ruin a panel. I've always been afraid to do it on a hood, but I had a guy show me many years ago the roof on an El Camino, and it's just a matter of knowing these little tips and tricks. So again, I hope you like what I'm doing. Give me a like, share, subscribe if you haven't. Thanks again. Bye for now.